Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Our guest today is Alex. So Alex, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dan. So I live in Toronto, Canada, and started a company in 2009. And what we do is we buy and sell large quantities of excess inventory. So that could be canceled orders, discontinued products. We purchase the assets of bankrupt companies. So yeah, every day we're kind of buying and selling all sorts of different assets.
Awesome. So I'm curious more about your background. Like, what did you do before? Like, what made you decide to actually go and start this company?
Yeah, no, great question. So I started kind of at a young age. When I was 12, I started buying and selling Toronto Maple Leafs playoff tickets. Here in Toronto, I used to go with my dad. I would ask him to borrow his credit card, and we would go to this store called Sam the Record Man. It was a record store. And back then, you didn't buy tickets online. You would buy them in person at the store. We'd line up. I would go buy, 1, 2, maybe 3 pairs. And then I would go down to the game and resell the tickets for triple. And then I would pay my dad back and just love the concept, love the idea of buying and selling, buying something that, I know someone wants, there's a premium for it. So that kind of took me, in my teenage years, started a company importing sports jerseys from overseas, which just had a passion for, loved, bringing them in, buying and selling. I did this through maybe the first year or two of university. I missed a few, lectures along the way. I felt that I was learning, myself in terms of customer service and learning about business. Finished my degree, came back to Toronto, was working for a liquidation company and really enjoyed it and decided to go on my own. 2009 launched, called it AD Hennick and Associates. I didn't have associates at the time, knew I would one day. And thankfully, it took some time, but over the years, we've been able to grow the company. We have a great team, and thankfully, we've been on the list of Canada's fastest growing companies, as well as North America's fastest growing companies.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. And I think we had spoken previously, I don't remember if I mentioned, but I myself was also in the jersey, autograph space. I used to sell autographs online, import jerseys from China. Same thing. I guess and obviously I kind of had a similar experience from the jersey standpoint. I'm curious to hear your take on it. Why did you stop doing that and switch to what you're doing now?
Yeah, you know what? I think I was much younger at the time. I don't want to say it was a fad, in terms of, because sports jerseys are not a fad. These were throwbacks. And I don't think it was a long-term, sustainable business. I think at the time we had a great relationship with the supplier. We had incredible players and teams and, really great selection. So it was something where I was really young, but also long-term. I probably would have needed to build some relationships directly with the leagues and with, the different manufacturers. So I guess I kind of look at it as one of those steps along the way that kind of brought me to where I am, but kind of knew at the time it was maybe a short-term venture that, kind of before and during school.
100%. Yeah, I feel the same way, exactly the same thing for me. I never felt that it was sustainable. Just when I sold all, everything I had to a friend of mine, and I just said, okay, I'm done with this. I guess from your perspective, so in terms of this business, right? So let's just talk about this. We started this back in 2009. So what exactly were you doing? How did you get your first customers? If you can just share that story.
Yeah, no, of course. About a month into starting, I partnered with someone and we purchased the assets. Actually, it was of a sports jersey manufacturer. It was very coincidental, not the same jerseys, I guess, I was importing, but it was an interesting opportunity because in Toronto, the company manufactured sports jerseys, but more for leagues. So it would have every different team, but it was for kids, to be able to make them. There was hockey, basketball, soccer, and it was a really interesting, exciting opportunity where we really had to find the right home. So I started building relationships with competitors, also companies who manufactured sports jerseys for, customers, people who were purchasing jerseys from this supplier, and really trying to put all the pieces together. So we jumped in kind of in our first deal, maybe 5 or 6 weeks in. But one thing I really did is I started just that networking process. It was so important for me to build that network. I would go to networking events here. I would go to trade shows constantly in Vegas, in Florida, and different places to meet people. And for me, it was all in the numbers. I would say, look, I'll go network, I'll meet 30 people, and maybe I'll do business with 2 of them. I'll learn about different companies, different industries. So it took a while, those first probably 5 to 7 years. It was tough because I felt that we were only as good as our last deal. It was hard to really build those relationships to get that consistent business and have that repeat where manufacturers were, consistently be coming back, or where we would be getting a lot of calls through, bankruptcy trustees. But I think we really put in the work, and building those relationships, for years has turned out to be priceless.
So in terms of that first deal, was it more so like you partnered with the company and they kind of saw your expertise in jerseys? Like how did you convince them to say, hey, listen, let me in on this deal and let's partner?
Yeah. So it was interesting. So I was introduced to someone who was looking to purchase the deal, and they were in the industry. They were actually a supplier to a lot of these jersey manufacturers. So I was introduced to him, and we kind of hit it off. It was a situation where he saw my expertise and my abilities to sell and kind of get out there. He had a really good grasp on the industry, on the customer base, on the equipment, the machinery. So a little bit by fluke, where I kind of just got introduced to someone who was looking to do the deal and brought me on, just to be a partner. So kind of, right place, right time. And it was a massive learning experience to be able to execute the deal and do it effectively, but more so the lessons and kind of what I gained from that, kind of kickstarted, that business and career.
For sure. And I guess in terms of what you're doing now, I mean, obviously it varies. There's obviously busier times, slower times. How do you kind of mitigate, or look at growth? Because I think it's there are obviously certain factors that are out of your control in terms of how many deals you can get, per month or even per year.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of the growth, it's really sometimes, you look at it and it might be overwhelming when there's a lot of opportunities, and trying to either choose the right one or seeing how the team can execute. I think we've done a really great job of kind of looking back, or when you get an opportunity, is trying to figure out the best game plan. We are continuing to partner with a lot of other people. It allows us to grow. It allows us to take on more opportunities. So there could be a situation where we have, one or multiple bankruptcies. And in order to execute efficiently by partnering, say, with another company, it brings on their team as well. So not only having my team and my warehouse staff and everyone on my team, it kind of allows us to take on that much more. So a lot of the time we find ourselves working closely with people to partner in order to take on more. But I think a lot of it is really that reputation and building a genuine relationship and treating people the way they want to be treated. It's allowed us to get the repeat business, knowing that we will do exactly what we say we're going to do. When we work with manufacturers, when we work with suppliers or bankruptcy trustees, they see it. They see it from the get-go. They see how we execute. And because of it, we keep on getting a lot of that repeat and exciting business.
Makes sense. And so I guess from that standpoint, I guess I'm asking more in terms of because obviously, I guess bankruptcies kind of follow more, downturns in the economy. There's obviously different things that are happening. Are you still able to have consistent, business or consistent, jobs, just regardless of what's happening on a national or global scale?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So thankfully we do. I don't think we did probably 10 years ago. Nowadays, it does come in waves. For example, during COVID, there were not a lot of bankruptcies. You would think that there would be, but it all kind of happened after. It took time. A lot of here in Toronto and in Canada, it was a lot different than in America, but we were on lockdown, we were shut down. I think it's something where we've really put ourselves out there and tried to continue to find unique opportunities. For example, right now we're getting a lot of inventory from third-party warehouses. So we're working with, places that get stuck where, say, their tenant or their client is, storing their stuff in the warehouse and the company doesn't pay their bill or they go bankrupt. So the third party warehouse will reach out to us and say, look, we're stuck with X inventory. We want to clear it out, but we're also owed. Can you buy it from us? That's just, kind of one example of additional sources of ways to get inventory. So when it isn't busy, so for example, 2020 to maybe 2022, there weren't as many bankruptcies. We had a steady flow of excess inventory, of canceled orders, of a variety of sources of inventory. Whereas now bankruptcies are very busy. The last 2 years has been kind of overwhelming in terms of what we've been seeing. So thankfully, we've been able to have many different sources where it kind of keeps us going.
Yeah, I'm curious more about the 3PL situation because, obviously, as you said, it's one thing, it's not even like their product and also they owe them money. So how do you kind of handle that? Like, do you also have to go and work with attorneys or people to, or debt collectors? Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, we do. So, and a lot of the time it's the warehouse directly. So they need to work with an attorney to legally take ownership of the inventory in order for them to sell it to us. And we need to get the proper documentation on our end to make sure it's free and clear that we are allowed to purchase it. So it's something where sometimes we're working closely with the 3PLs to educate them or introduce them or kind of guide them in the right direction, because for them, they want to recover as much as possible. But for them, the opportunity cost of having their warehouse full with someone else's inventory is crucial. So they want to get it out quickly. So I think it's something where, it's just very important that we go about it the right way and give them all the necessary, advice, because it is tricky. It's tricky that they can't just go ahead and sell it without going through the legal steps. Because then if I have the inventory, the company could potentially come after or try to say that, we didn't legally purchase the inventory.
Got it. And then in terms of actually, selling it, so who do you look for as buyers? Is it typically big retailers? Is it typically, smaller kind of shops and folks who specialize in this? Obviously, there's probably like a range of different folks, but what are you seeing right now in terms of, who you're mostly working with?
Yeah, so we are typically we're working with a lot of larger discount retail stores. So we will work with discount retailers, sometimes online sellers, occasionally warehouse sales, and it could be competitors. It really depends. Like, if we're purchasing the assets of a bankrupt company, there could be a lot of items, whether it be inventory, equipment, machinery, that alike competitors can use. So every deal is slightly different. We try to be creative in terms of what we have, but a lot of the time we're just trying to, but consistently, I would say discount retailers, online sellers, warehouse sales are big majority of our customer base.
So in terms of finding like the right customers, what does that process look like? So as soon as you get a hold of something, are you just calling them and do you put it through some sort of, email channel? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So for me, I think it's a little bit different than most. I kind of look at a deal as like a secret. I don't want anyone to know about it. So I think it's really important that we kind of reach out to the right people. So I don't just send it or, quote unquote, blast it out to a lot of different people.
Right.
I'll go to the customer that I think is most capable of purchasing it. So I'll call them directly and I'll tell you, we just purchased X, a large quantity of this product. I'll tell them about it, kind of see if they're interested. And then from there, if they aren't, kind of go down to the next, whoever we think, might be. I don't want a lot of people to know about it. I don't want to, a lot of people in our industry or a lot of people in general will get a deal and then send it to everyone. And to me, then it's not a deal because then everyone knows about it. So for us, it's kind of focusing and utilizing those really successful customers that we know are capable of taking it and trying to work with them as much as possible.
So when you are buying something, how do you ensure that it's going to be sold like in a timely manner? Because obviously your cash is tied up with these products. So yeah.
Yeah, no, a really great question. So it's really all in the buy, in terms of probably when we first started, it was more, brokering or trying to get a deal and finding the right customer. Now we'll just buy anything. And to me, if we buy it at the right price, we should never, ever be worried about having a home or being able to resell it. So I think it's really making sure, we're buying the right products in general, but also making sure that we buy it at a price that regardless, we're going to be able to move it, even if it's slightly above kind of what we got it for. I think now it is challenging in the sense that, there are certain industries that are struggling. So more and more, there's deals that we have to, kind of turn away. And knowing that warehouse space is a premium, it's something where it's hard. It's hard to bring on a deal, when it's not, might not move as quickly. So we have to really be selective in terms of kind of what we're choosing these days.
So I guess from that standpoint, what are you seeing in terms of industries that are struggling or deals that you often have to turn away right now in 2025?
Yeah. So, I would say a few are really standing out. One is a lot of homes, at least here and where you are not selling as much. The housing market is struggling. And because of it, usually when people buy homes, they're doing renovations. A lot of people aren't doing renovations, which means you're getting lighting companies, flooring companies, furniture companies, like anyone who would be supplying, anything to do with renovations are struggling. For the last year and a half, 2 years, we are getting so many phone calls, and we're talking large quantities of items because these are big items that take up warehouse space. Warehouse space is a premium these days, and it's very difficult. And I think that also people are changing. They're changing in terms of the style. They're changing in terms of what they want. And nowadays, the economy is struggling so much. It's not about a price. It's about needing it. It's about wanting it. So if I said to you, Dan, I have this incredible flooring. It's 90% off. You'd say, yeah, great, Alex. I think it's great flooring, but unless you're redoing your floors, it's not a deal because, you have nowhere to put it. And so I think it's becoming a point where it's not even about the price. It's about if people actually need it or want it. Certain industries and certain items are, I don't want to say becoming obsolete, but you're going to see a huge reset in the next year or two, if we haven't already, with a lot of different companies, a lot of different industries. Yeah, so it's just, there's a lot of significant changes.
So obviously 2026 is around the corner. So what are you guys most focused on for 26?
Yeah, so that's a really good question as well. We try to stay ahead of it. So we're constantly focusing on market trends. We're seeing different changes in terms of not only industries, but shipping. Tariffs has been massive for the last year, and the effect has been significant. We're continuing to focus on really getting out there and building certain relationships, key relationships, not only with manufacturers, suppliers, bankruptcy trustees, warehouses, really just continuing to get out there because what we're doing, seems to be working. We have a great reputation. We're getting a lot of referrals, but I think it's just important to prepare so that you're ready for anything. You're kind of ready for the deal before it happens. I think we're kind of quietly preparing for years as we, you don't even realize it. But for us, it's really just continuing to work it as a team and being able to just take on, as many opportunities as we can.
That's awesome. So if you could go back in time to before you started this business, what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
One biggest piece of advice, I would say, things, they take a lot longer than you anticipate. When you're working on projects, whether it's something short term or long term, it takes a long, it does not happen overnight. And I think it's so important as a business and a business owner to constantly be growing at a pace that's, you can't have it all at once. Like for us, it's, try to grow, 1% a day, or just find ways to constantly, learn and get better. So I would say, that's definitely one thing that really stands out. In terms of anything else, I would say, obviously, like for us, like the foundation of the relationships is crucial. Your relationships and your reputation is everything. So for us, it's constantly getting out there, but it's doing it the right way, because our ability to kind of really show what we're capable of and then, do exactly that has really gone a long way. That's definitely another thing that would stand out for us.
Makes sense. And that's really good advice there. So if somebody's watching this show and if they wanted to reach out to you, do you mind sharing your website and social media? I guess best ways to get in contact.
Yeah, of course. Our website is adhennick.com, and we are on Facebook. We're on Instagram. You can reach out at info@adhennick.com. And that's LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Well, Alex, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate it.